Alright, so this video is going to be about a short introduction to Merchant of Venice. It's going to include a small background history on the times when Shakespeare wrote the play, and that is why, the nature of the play becomes as such, especially about, this play is about anti-Semitism, a word which has been used even in the past year, and why we are studying it in Merchant of Venice, as it also forms a major theme of the play and thus the plight of one of the main characters of the play. I'm not going to tell about Shakespeare. You can just pause this a little bit and read it. Otherwise, particularly for Merchant of Venice, this is not required. All right, so we know that Shakespeare has written tragedies, histories, and comedies. This particular play, Merchant of Venice, over the time has come to be known as a tragicomedy and a problem play. What exactly is a tragicomedy? It's pretty obvious from the word. It includes the elements of both tragedy and a comedy. Now, Shakespeare's comedy as and tragedies have some particular elements. For comedy, you'll have a rough beginning for the main character. There'll be disguises throughout the play. There'll be love, and it usually ends in, the protagonists of the play getting married. So all of these characters we have, all of these elements we have in Merchant of Venice as well. Similarly, if you see, Shakespeare's tragedies also develop throughout the course of the play, with the protagonist of the play undergoing a decline in character because of their hamasha. I've explained hamasha entirely in another video because that is an important part of literature. In short, it means, it is the fatal flaw, the flaw in a person that in a character that leads to their downfall. Now, let's look at the main plot of the play. All right, so the plot of main background, it revolves around Shylock. He's a Jewish money lender, and he wants to extract revenge from this Christian merchant who happens to be Antonio. Now, we need to remember that we are talking of times when England was predominantly Christian. It is racist. Even today, one of the most racist countries. You have this theme running throughout the play itself. Starting it in 21st century, we can see these themes clearly. I would like to add a little background about the Jews. If you look at the Jewish history, they have been expelled and looked down upon throughout the course of time, and at times have even been referred to as the cursed race. So even back in 1290, they were expelled, banished from England under the Edict of Expulsion. And consequently, the masses grew fond of racism and started looking down upon Jews. The Jews who existed in England during that time, they lived as Christians and probably even, practiced their religion in secrecy. From this, we get a very, very important word which forms a major theme of the play. So the word that we get, the important word that we have is it's anti-Semitism. The word simply means being discriminatory and having prejudice towards the Jews. And of course, the person who is discriminatory is called an anti-Semite. Now, anti-Semitism found recognition among netizens in 2021 and in 2022, considering the ever ongoing Palestine and Israel conflicts. But it's hard to disagree that Israel today is one of the most powerful nations. All right, so who are the main characters? You have Shylock, Portia, Antonio, Bassanio as the major characters. So you have Salarino and Solanio as the helping characters. You have Nerissa, a very good friend of Portia. Similarly, Antonio and Bassanio being very good friends. There are theories that they are lovers and there's gay love, but I would not like to dwell in that. But let's just go with friendship because definitely you can say that you love your friend. So you have Portia, one of the major and strongest female characters of Shakespeare. Shylock, who is one of the most important characters. He has most important speeches throughout the play. You have Graciano, a very talkative, philosophical character in the play. You have Jessica, Shylock's daughter, Lorenzo, who Jessica elopes with. You have Lancelot Gobbo, one of the comical characters which provides a comical relief, basically. The Prince of Morocco and the Prince of Aragon, who choose, the caskets. So these two are specific to the casket scene. You have Salarino Solano, I already went over it. You have the Duke of Venice. He happens to be an important character because he's the one who tries to resolve the agreement which took place between Antonio and Shylock, which obviously being a Christian and going back to this racist and this religious ideology, the crack in the religious ideology, we have him favoring Antonio instead of Shylock because of all the more reasons. You have Tubal, who is Shylock's cousin. He calls him as a wealthy member of my tribe. You have old Gobo, a father to Lancelot Gobo, Dr. Bellario, and Balthazar. Balthazar is Portia dressed as a lawyer. All right, coming to one of the most important parts of drama, that is the theme of, in fact, any literary work, that is the theme. So the first theme we want to delve is race. Of course, whenever there is England, you definitely have to have the issue of race. Throughout the play, you will notice that there is commentary on Shylock as a Jew. Throughout his majority of the places, he's been referred to as the Jew. They don't refer to him as Shylock, which in a way is derogatory. And if you look at it in terms of normal conversation, because drama is people having conversation on stage, then you come across wealth. How does wealth form such an important part? Because foremost, the main plot of the play revolves around Antonio paying back a huge amount of money to Shylock, through which the entire play progresses. Then you have the wealth of the Jews, the wealth of the Christians, Bassanio wanting to garner wealth in order for Portia in order to woo Portia. Then you have friendship. Definitely the friendship between Bassanio and Antonio is commendable. The friendship between Silario and Salarino, and one of the main characters, the friendship between Nerissa and Portia, an example of a very strong female friendship. A marriage. Definitely, since it is a comedy, the end we see, in fact, we see three marriages happening, that is of Portia and Bassanio and Portia. The first, who he wants to woo in the first place, so they end up getting married. You have Jessica and Lorenzo getting married, and you have Nerissa and the very talkative Cresciano getting married. The justice comes as another theme because in the end, basically, so now there's a little conflicting idea here as to whom the justice is meted out to. Whether Antonio was justified or whether the justice scales tipped towards Antonio or towards Shylock. However, seeing the times, the racist attitude, Shylock had not been given justice. There's obviously love, the whole motive of Bassanio borrowing money, Antonio borrowing money from Shylock, stems from this love he has towards Portia. There are choices to be made. One of the most important the scenes is the casket scene, which occurs in around two places, and it's an important choice that Portia has to make, the suitors have to make, and even for Bassanio, in order to marry Portia, he must make the right choice of the casket. Isolation, I would say it's given because in the beginning, Antonio is aloof, feeling isolated. Then you have Shylock, who has been isolated by the society. There's this something short on Shylock. You can pause it and read it. I'm not going to go over it. This is talking about his important speeches, about his daughter, and how he's reacting. He does not make a very good impression, especially when he thinks about, if you think about his daughter. Now, when Jessica runs away with all the jewels and some money, he's not worried about his daughter, he's worried about his money. So even Shylock does not leave a very good impression, but that does not mean that he is to be stripped of all his wealth and his character and his personality in all just because he happens to be a Jew. Coming to Antonio, you can read this as well, pause it and read it. Not going to go over it. So, who is exactly the Merchant of Venice? Uh, I am partial towards Shylock, so I will go with him because Antonio hardly has any dialogue in the play. He is present somewhere in Act 1, somewhere in between, but he really doesn't have substance, he doesn't really add substance apart from the fact that he has a very strong bond with Bassanio, and the whole plot stirs into action because of Antonio's generosity. So this is the end of it. Please find the explanation towards the scene-wise and line-wise paragraph paraphrase in the upcoming videos. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day. Please do like and subscribe if you feel that this was helpful.